let's get to actually displaying our stores. Now that we've added 2 or 3 to our database, we need to show them on the actual page. Now, where is that going to happen? It's going to happen first on the home page. And second, it's also going to show when you visit your stores page directly. So we need a controller method that's going to run on both of those routes. So we'll do that right now. We'll say exports dot get stores equals, it's going to be a request and have a response. And then inside of that, let's just say response.render. We're going to render out the stores URL, and the title of that is going to be stores. So let's try that out. Then we go back to our routes index.js, and we'll say router.get is no longer going to be our homepage. It's now going to be get stores. You see the beauty of this, and then it would just duplicate that line. Just say Command-Shift-D, and you want to say anytime you visit stores, you also want to run that. So give that a save. If we refresh that, it should tell us it doesn't find the template. There we go, cannot find it. So let's go and open up our views. Make a new file called stores.pug. And again, you can just you can take this over if you want to like go to something like edit store. If you just want to like take that, paste it in here. It extends the layout. We don't need the store form there. You have a block content, h2 title, and take the store form out. So let's go through that real quick. When somebody hits our route, which is either / or / stores, use the controller method get stores for both of them, which is get stores. And then that will immediately render out the stores URL with just a title called stores. Let's see if that works. There we go. Stores on the home page. That works as well. On the stores page, both of those pages are working. Good. Now, that's not all. What we need to do here is before we get the stores, we need to first query the database for a list of all stores before we can actually show them on the page. So the way that we do that is very similar to how we saved a store in the last couple of videos, but now we're going to be querying the database for a list of our new stores. So the first thing we need to do is make this an async function. And when you have an async function, you must go back to your routes and find your store controller and wrap it in catch errors, because we're going to be using our async await without any try catch here. Good. Go back here, and we will take our store and we will use .find. And what .find will do is it will query the database for all of them. Now, there's a whole bunch of different things we can chain on here to limit and search for ones that only contain a specific word in the title. We're going to get into more queries, but for now, we're just going to find them all, and then later we'll come back and do pagination, things like that. So store.find, and how do you save that in a database? Well, we simply say const stores equals store.find, and store.find is going to return a promise. So how do we wait for store.find to come back before we actually send data to the user and render it out? Well, you await it. Await store.find. And then on the next line, you should be able to console log all the stores. So let's give that a save. I'm going to open up my terminal here, clear it out, refresh. Whoa, you see that it still loads stores, but our console.log here has console.logged an array of every single store that is available to us. So we now want to take that stores variable and give it to our actual template so we can loop over it. And the way that we do that is you simply just pass it the stores property, and we're going to pass it the stores variable. Or if you've taken my ES6 course, you'll know I got a little red underline there. If the property name is the same as the variable that you are passing along, so property name is stores, the variable that we're passing along is also stores, you can simply just pass the variable, and that will do the same thing as we're doing there. So if we go back in, nothing will change, but we can go into our stores and maybe do a pre-h dot take a dump, sorry, and try to dump our stores onto the page. What do we got there? Hey. So if you dump your stores variable, you'll see that before we render out this page, we quickly hit the database for an array of all of our stores. You see the bakery, the fish market, the test, and testing 1, 2, 3. Those are the 4 that if you go back to your um, database here and give it a refresh, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all of our stores that we have. Good. Now, how do we loop over all of that? How do we actually get them displaying? Well, let's look at that now. Take out that dump, and we're going to give ourselves a div with a class of stores, and then we're going to loop over with each store in stores. And for each one, let's just try to give ourselves an H2 that has a store.name. Does that give us, here we go, bakery, fish market, testing 1, 2, 3. Good. But what we actually want to do is to shell off this displaying of each individual stores to a separate mixin. And I'm going to call that a store card. So we'll go back into our views, mixins, new file. We'll call it underscore store card dot pug. And we'll make a mixin called mixin store card. Takes in a store. It will default to being blank. And then we will have inside of that a store, which has a store hero underscore hero. Inside of that, we're going to have an image tag with a source that is equal to backticks. And that is either going to be / uploads / we're going to try see if the store has a photo. And you'll know now it doesn't have a photo because we haven't done that part yet. But if it doesn't have a store photo, we're simply just going to give it store.png, and that will fall back to something that I've got in this. So if we go to public uploads, you'll see this store.png. This is what we're going to fall back to if it does not exist. So store.png. And then also, what do we want to put in there? We want to have an H2 with the class of title. And we have a link in there that's going to link to aref equals. Now we need to generate this URL. So it's going to be backticks / store / store.slug, because the store is going to have a slug. And then inside of that, we can use store.name. Now, again, let me remind you of how silly this is. If you want to generate a attribute like this, you have to use backticks and the ES6 $ curly brackets. If you want to put a variable inside of a text content of a node, you have to use the hash property. So it's a little bit weird that you have to know both of those, but you'll get used to it pretty quickly. So we just made this mixin here called store card. If we go back to our stores here, can we import it really quickly? Yes, we can. So we'll say include mixins. Notice how there's no quotes around here. Store card, because that's the name of the file. And then here, instead of having an H2, we're going to delete that, and you just use our store card, which you pass it all the data it needs, which is our store variable. So, let's see if that works. Cross your fingers. Beautiful. We've got our bakery, our test, fish market, and if you click on one of them, it should actually bring you to the URL. Obviously, it's still 404. We don't have that page, but we are now listing out all of the stores. Now we can take that a little bit further. Obviously, we haven't put everything into it. So let's go back to our store card here. Now down here, we have our store details. That's just a CSS class. So we're going to have a hero, and we're going to have a details as a sibling to that. Inside of that, we'll have a paragraph tag, which will include the store.description property. Now, if I refresh that, you'll see that our descriptions are now popping up inside of our store details div. They're all properly spaced like that. One thing that could possibly happen is somebody could add a really long store. So here I could say really long store name. And then someone could also add a really long, let me get a whole bunch of lorem ipsum here. Someone could add a really long description in here. Save. I successfully created it. Go back to my stores page. Now, we've got a bit of a problem with this really long description here. So what we could do is say like maximum 25 words in our template when you're viewing a store card. That's pretty good. We can just take that description, and because Pug is just JavaScript, you can immediately split it on a space. You can then take that array that it returns and slice it for the first 25 words, and then you can join it back together with a space. And that will cut it down to, oh no! All right, let's see what we got here. Unexpected token. Oh, you can't do semicolons in Pug because while it is JavaScript, there are no semicolons in Pug. There we go. What that did is it trimmed it to 25 words. And what happened there? Well, let's say we have that string here. So I'll say const string equal, or maybe words equals, and we'll put it in a string. So I have our words. And if you split something on a space, that will give you an array of all of the words. Here we have 50 words. So immediately you can take that array and you can slice it, getting the first to the 25th word. And that returns us an array with the length of 25 words. And then we're going to turn that array right back into a sentence with join with a space again. And that's a nice quick way to slice a sentence without slicing it in the middle of any of your possible words. So you'll do that quite a bit where you do have the data, but you just need to massage it in a little bit. And it's totally fine just to do a little bit of work inside of your template when you rather not do it inside of your controller. So we got our store details showing up. Everything is starting to look pretty good. One last thing is it's looking a little bit squished here, and that's because we haven't added these store actions just yet. And that's going to allow us to heart and favorite and remove all of those things. So what we want to do here is just go inside of your hero. The first line, give yourself a store __ actions. And inside of that, you can just give yourself a button that says soon. And what that will do is it'll put us a little button there. Eventually, we're going to come back and change that out, and that'll kick in the CSS. So things start to look a lot better. So that is looping over all of our data. Again, let's review that real quick. We have a route which calls our get stores controller. Our stores controller is responsible for two things. It's going to get the data, and then it's going to pass that data to our template, which will then in turn we use a mixin and a template to loop over and display all of that data. You can take those console logs out. It sort of muddies up your actual terminal window. So refresh. Good. We're in good shape. I'll see you in the next one.